Welcome back to another Roblox Studio tutorial. In today's video, we're going to make a simple jump pad that when your player touches the part, they get launched up into the air. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive in and see how we can do this in Roblox Studio. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So the setup for this is pretty easy. All you're going to need is a single part, and then go ahead and add a script into that part. Inside the script, we're going to start with a variable for the part. So we'll say local jump, and this is going to be equal to script.parent. After that, we're going to make a function that'll run whenever this part gets touched. We'll say local function. The name of this function is going to be jump underscore pad. Inside the parentheses, we're going to pass other part. So this will be the other object that touches our jump pad. Inside this function, we're going to check the object that touched our jump pad for a humanoid root part. So we'll say local, and then we're going to shorten it up as HRP, so that'll stand for humanoid root part, and that's going to be equal to other part dot parent. And then inside that, we're going to be looking for the humanoid root part, so we'll say find first child. Inside the parentheses will be the name of the part that we're looking for. So we're going to be looking for the humanoid root part. Okay, so later on in the script, we're going to be adding a body velocity to the player. So what we want to do before we add a new one to the player is to check to see if they already have one. So we'll say local, and then we're going to say body, and then we're going to do a shorthand for velocity. So we're going to say VEL, and that's going to be equal to our humanoid root part. And then we're going to say colon, find first child. And this time, since we're looking for a type of object, we're going to add which is a. And inside the parentheses, we're going to put body velocity. You could probably get away with just using find first child here, but it's better if you're looking for a type of object that you use which is a. And up here, we're just looking for a name of a part. That's why we used find first child. Next, we're going to make an if statement. So we're going to say if HRP. So that'll mean we found a humanoid root part. And then we want to check for something else. So we're going to say and this time we're going to say not body vel. So that'll mean we don't have a body velocity already in the player. And if those two conditions are true, then what we're going to do first is create a new body velocity. So we're going to say local, and then new vel. And this is going to be equal to instance dot new. Inside the parentheses, we're going to put body velocity. Okay, and after that, we're just going to be defining some properties of the body velocity. If you're not sure what properties an object has, then what you can do is just insert one into the workspace. So in this case, I want to look at the properties for the body velocity. And we can see down here, we have a max force, we have a p-value, and also a velocity. And if you want to know more about each of these properties, you can look at the Roblox developer website. So this is the Roblox developer website for body velocity. And we can see here for max force, it says that this property determines the limit on how much force that may be applied in each axis. So that's referring to the X, Y, and Z. We can see for the P property that this determines how aggressive of a force is applied. And then for velocity, this just determines the velocity applied. So now back in the script here, we can modify these different properties. So let's start with new vel dot velocity. And we're going to set that equal to a vector 3 dot new. And here we can choose a velocity in the X direction, the Y direction, and the Z direction. If we want the player to shoot up, that's going to be a change in the Y. So we'll put 0 for the X. Let's try 100 for the Y. And then we'll try 0 for the Z. Next, we're going to modify the max force. So we'll say new vel dot max force. And this is going to be equal to vector 3 dot new. And inside here, we're just going to put some random numbers. We can see that for the default, it's 4,000 for the X, Y, and Z. So instead of doing that, let's try 10,000 for each. Okay, and finally, we're going to adjust the p-value. So we're going to say new vel dot p. We can see that the default is 1250. So instead of that, let's try 5,000. Okay, to insert this body velocity inside the player, we're going to say new vel dot parent. And we want to put this inside the humanoid root part. So we're going to say equal to and then HRP. we're going to wait for 1 second. And then after that, we're going to get rid of it. So we'll say new val, colon, and destroy. Okay, down here at the bottom, we're going to connect this to the touch event. So we'll say jump dot touched colon connect, and then we'll connect it to jump underscore pad. All right, so that's it. So let's go ahead and try it out. And then later on, we can come back and modify some of these numbers. Okay, so I'm going to move my player over the jump pad. Okay, so nothing happened, so we probably have an error in the script. And we can see on this line right here that I put first. So let's go ahead and fix that. So it should be find first. All right, so let's go and run the code again and check it out. Okay, so now if my player touches this part here, they get launched up into the air. All right, so what we're going to do for the rest of the video is just go back to the script and adjust some of the values. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the velocity right here. So instead of 100, let's try 500. Okay, so we can see in this case, we get a much higher jump boost. Now instead of 500, let's try 50. Okay, in that case, we get a much smaller jump boost. Now let's try applying the velocity in a different direction. So we'll change it from the Y position to the X position. All right, and when my player touches the pad now, they get shifted to the right. So let's try and do something a little bit interesting. So we're going to move them in the X direction, but we're also going to apply a Y direction as well. So now when the player touches the part, they get shifted to the right and also up in the air. All right, so I think that covers the velocity part, so let's move on to the max force. All right, so let's try something really small to start off with. So for each one, we're going to do 100. Okay, and it looks like when my player touches the part, nothing happens. So it looks like a force of 100 is too small. So it looks like 5,000 is the minimum value to launch the player up in the air. And then if you want the maximum value for each of these, then you can do math.huge. So you can say math.huge for all these. Okay, and finally we'll take a look at this p-value here. So the default is 1250, so let's try something a little bit less than that. Let's try 500. So remember, the p-value is how aggressive the force is applied. So by choosing a lower number, it should be less aggressive. And just so we have a good comparison, let's change this back to the 10,000 we had before. Okay, so that's what 500 looks like. Okay, let's try and increase that. So let's try 5,000 instead. So to me, it doesn't look like there's much difference. It may go up a little bit faster, but it doesn't look like it makes a big difference. What did make a big difference as far as the speed of it was changing these to math.huge. So in that case, it looks like you go up quite a bit faster. All right, and just for fun, let's change the velocity part to math.huge too. So it looks like I go up so high that it kills the player, and then after a few seconds, it spawns back in. All right, so this is going to be the end of the video. I think this is something fun you can do whenever you're learning about a new topic. Just go ahead and write a simple script for it, and then play around with the different properties and see what the different numbers do. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next one.